I hope you're well. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome to today's video, which is my Her-storyathon TBR for the month of March. I will put a link to the Herstoryathon announcement in the description box for you, but the too long didn't read it version is that it's a Women's History Month themed readathon hosted during Women's History Month in March that Charlotte and I have been hosting for now 3 years, and it's one of my favorite times of the years because these are the books that are my bread and butter. They make up my TBR, my bookcases by and large. Like that is my focus, that is my interest. So we're going to talk about the books that I've selected for each of the prompts on the bingo card, and I like to double up. So I have books that I think cover multiple prompts in most instances. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Okay, so the first prompt is different country. So to read a book about a woman from a country other than your own. I live in the US, so the world is my oyster. And for that prompt, I've selected Ecstasy by Mary Sherratt. I don't know what I managed to put on this book, but it makes me sad that there is now this hideous ring there. But this is a book about Alma Mahler, and she lived in Austria. She was a composer, had dreams of sort of setting the musical world on fire, except she falls for the composer Mahler, and basically he gives her an ultimatum. You can either be a composer or you can be my wife, my muse, and the mother of my children. Not all of those things at once. So this is a book about her. And I had previously picked it up. I think I got maybe 30-40 pages in, but it was during my reading slump. And honestly, I don't remember much of it. And I put the book down and just never picked it up again. So I'm going to revisit this. I'm going to start from page 1 though, because like I said, I don't remember much of what happened. But I do remember enjoying the writing style. So I feel like that should be a good one for that prompt. Also, I feel like because she's a composer, we could use this for the writing women's prompt as well, even if I think technically most people would use it for author, journalist, poet, that sort of thing. But I'm very excited to revisit this book. Okay, next we have Writing Women, and the book that I have flagged for that is Z, a novel of Zelda Fitzgerald by Therese Anne Fowler. This is about Zelda Fitzgerald, obviously. She was an author in her own right, and she was also F. Scott Fitzgerald's wife. You know, he authored The Great Gatsby. I've read another book by Therese Anne Fowler, which was more Gilded Age time period. This is more Roaring Twenties, but I am very, very much looking forward to it. I believe on Amazon Prime there is a series on Zelda that is also called Z, I want to say. So I might read the book and watch the show at the same time, see how they differ, but very much looking forward to this considering how much I enjoyed the other Fowler novel that I've read. Then we have Multiple Generations, one book, and for that I have selected The Victorian and the Romantic by Nell Stevens. So this is a memoir, so it could be used for the Letters Diaries memoir prompt as well. But basically, Nell Stevens is in London writing her dissertation, and she's drawn to the Victorian author Elizabeth Gaskell, and so it's a book that talks about the connection between these two writing women, and it is 2 generations. They're 100 years roughly apart. So I'm going to use it for that prompt, hopefully, but it could be easily used for writing women. It could be easily used for letters, diaries, and memoirs too. Oh, and I want to say I started listening to the audiobook for this when I was in my reading slump, and it didn't go well, not because I wasn't enjoying it, but because I was slumping so badly. So I will be attempting to read this for the second time, and hopefully now that I'm out of this slump, knocking on all the wood, I will actually get to finish it. But I am very excited about this one. Next, we have Letters, Diaries, and Memoirs, and a book that I am so excited to read, Testament of Youth by Vera Brittain. This is considered one of the greatest accounts of World War I of all time. And Vera Brittain was studying at Oxford, and she leaves Oxford to become a nurse on the front. And this is her account of World War I. And I am really drawn to World War I and World War II stories, especially nonfiction. So I'm very much looking forward to this. I had never heard of Vera Brittain until I watched a movie based on this on Amazon Prime years ago, and immediately ordered this after watching it. I was just so overwhelmed by the sort of story, the scope, the human emotions in that movie. So I felt like the book was even going to be more hard-hitting. It is a bit of a chunky book, especially for someone coming out of a reading slump, but it is a book that I am very, very excited to read. Next, we have Underrepresented Women, which I am so excited to put this book on my TBR. I think it's been on TBRs in the past before my little hiatus from BookTube to deal with this reading slump and life in general. But Paper Bullets by Jeffrey H. Jackson. It's about two avant-garde artists from Paris who are living on the Isle of Jersey in the UK during World War II when it is occupied by the Nazis, and they decide that they're gonna put their skills to use, and they fire paper bullets. They use their skills as artists to demoralize the Nazis with their own propaganda. And these two women also happen to be a couple. They're a lesbian couple that were known for cross-dressing and gender bending at the time, and that is why I've selected them for this prompt. They sound absolutely amazing and like such a colorful story, and I just can't wait to hear about them because I honestly have never, apart from this book, heard any mention of them in the history books, and I feel like that is why this prompt stays on our bingo board year in and year out, because it is just so good to discover these like hidden gems of women and to give them their due. So very much looking forward to reading this one. And obviously it could work for different country as a prompt as well if I need it to. Oh, and actually it could work for activist women prompt too. Next, we have early achiever prompt, which for us we described as women who have accomplished great things by an early age. I think we said 25 is kind of the magic number. They make us reassess our own life choices, like why couldn't we do the things they do? I'm taking a little bit of a liberty here, but I am trying to read Financial Feminist by Tori Dunlop, which is a book that I've wanted to read because I'm kind of on this quest to better prepare myself financially for the future. Tori Dunlop kind of started out writing a blog where she was trying to amass savings of $100,000 by the age of 25, which she did. She's now become this kind of financial feminist figure who has TikToks and books and communities and all sorts of things where she talks to women specifically about how to make smart financial decisions. So I'm going to use this for this prompt because it's something that I really want to read. I follow a lot of her stuff elsewhere, and this just seems like a good book to include. And she is an activist in a way because she is kind of pushing this agenda of overcoming the patriarchy with finances for women. Next up, we have Women at Leisure. And I know what we meant by leisure, but I've put a little twist on it, and I am very excited about that twist. I am going to read Madam by Debbie Applegate, which is about Polly Adler, a madam whose aspiration was to be the best, and I quote, the best goddamn madam in all of America. So she was running brothels during kind of the Roaring 20s. Her brothels became these meeting places of the culturati, celebrity elite, and even kind of underworld figures. And I know that's not what we meant by leisure, but I'm taking it. She sounds like this wild and crazy character in history, and I can't wait to read read it. So that's what I've selected for that prompt. Is it bending it a little bit? Probably. But she just sounds like the sort of character you would want at a party. Like, she sounds like she'd have a lot of hilarious stories to tell. And you know what? I'm gonna give her a moment and read this biography. It sounds like a trip, to be sure. And then the last prompt is Stage and Screen Queens. And I have 2 books for this. One is fiction, one is nonfiction. I'll see what sort of mood I'm in at the time. But one is Delayed Rays of a Star by Amanda Lee Coe. But this is a book that revolves around Marlene Dietrich, the film star, Anna May Wong, another film star, and Lenny Renstalt, I believe is her last name, who was a director. So I feel like this would be a great book for this prompt. I don't know all that much about it. It is a novel, but those individuals are very much real and very much had an impact on sort of the entertainment industry as we know it. I believe Lenny actually became a director for Hitler, but I could be wrong. Very, very interested in this. I love sort of that era of film, black and white films, 1930s, 40s, 50s. Love that so much. So we'll see how this goes. And then the other possibility for this book I'm throwing in here, although it's not specifically just about the woman. The man also figures heavily and prominently in the book, so that's kind of why it might be used for this prompt, it might not, but I really want to read the book, so I figured I'd add it to the TBR. It is Truly Madly by Stephen Galloway, which is Vivien Leigh, Laurence Olivier, and the romance of the century. So this is kind of described as a biography of marriage. They were 2 huge film stars in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. Really, I think kind of the first power couple in that sense, but Vivien Leigh was most famous for her role as Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind, but would later play Blanche in A Streetcar Named Desire, Anna Karenina, a whole slew of roles. And Laurence Olivier made a name for himself as a movie star, a Shakespearean actor, and they were madly in love, reportedly, although their marriage had many hurdles and they did end up divorcing. But they are huge. They're like stage and screen royalty because they both acted in movies and acted on Broadway and the West End and all of that stuff. So I am very much looking forward to this. I have loved Vivien Leigh as an actress for a very, very long time. She's probably one of my favorites, so I will be interested to hear more about her. But this is another possibility for that prompt. So yeah, those are all of the books. Will I read all of them? Probably not. I have not been reading that many books in a month in a very, very long time. But that's why I doubled up, tripled up, sometimes quadrupled up on prompts for each of those books to see how many prompts I can actually check off. But I am genuinely excited for all of these books, genuinely excited to see what everyone is reading for Herstoryathon, and just can't wait for the month of March to arrive. So thank you so much for watching. If you are participating, let me know in the description box. If you're a booktuber and you have your own Herstoryathon TBR, send me a link. If you don't have a channel, let me know some books that you plan to read for Herstoryathon. I want to hear all the book recommendations, okay? But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!